briefly, and that is communication at this particular conference, and asking this important question: has the ANC provided a necessary and clear pipeline of information to the people on the other side of the fence? In other words, us, people representing the different media organizations. My colleague, political commentator Karima Brown, has raised that issue during the course of our discussions during the course of the day, and a senior ANC member, Nomvula Mokonyane, has a different view on that. So we thought it might be instructive for all of us to put all of that under a microscope and invite both of them onto our set here at Nasrec. Karima, what was the issue that you were raising? What were you concerned about?
Well, we were having a panel discussion around the fact that there were so many rumors coming out about what was happening behind closed doors when it emerged that there were 68 votes that were apparently not counted, and that they don't know quite what is going to happen to it. We've been told that there could be potential court action and all manner of implications. And what we were saying was that if there was communication, proper communication from the ANC on, first of all, how it arises that you have 68 votes not being counted, then one could begin to have clarity, one could begin to make an assessment based on accurate information about what the impact of this development would be. And of course, the context of all of this is a very contested national elective conference preceded by provincial conferences where courts had to intercede and rule two PECs illegal. So that was the context. And then I made the comment that Nomvula Mokonyane had released a statement, I think it was on the 18th, I think, yes, 18th of December. It says, over the last few days, a number of allegations have been made as an attempt to tarnish the name of Nomvula Mokonyane. And it then goes on to say, where Ms. Mokonyane basically says that all the allegations made against her around vote rigging, around interfering with the process, around asking for a recount are false, and that she has not been found guilty of anything. This statement was released quite late, but also if you release a statement, one is not able to engage like you do in a briefing. And the point that we were making, given the fact that yesterday Simon Kokeli was chucked out of the conference, his tag taken, was that if there were briefings, then you could actually ask questions to these things. So this is a very passive form of communication.
All right.
And my point was that if we had briefing about irregularities and allegations of corruption, one could actually put specific questions to the ANC and actually get to the bottom of it.
Minister Mokonyane, first of all, you asked us if you could address this particular issue. So let me say to you that we are absolutely delighted here at ENCA that you're following the conference on our channel and not on the opposition channels, and I think you know why you're doing that, for all the right reasons. What's the concern here? Does Karima Brown have a point that there has not been sufficient communication from behind that fence, and as we've made the point time and time again, the consequence of that is that often speculation fills a vacuum, and that is detrimental to the messaging that you're trying to put across. How do you respond to that?
Thank you very much. Let me correct you. I don't only watch ENCA. I got attracted to it because of what Karima said. I was watching SABC. And then I got to know that this is what Karima was saying. And I've been in various studios per invitation, including on this passive response. I've already responded to many, but I'm here now. Two things that we know, and I think Karima, being a former activist and understanding how conferences work, there are closed sessions where issues are discussed, and there are open sessions, and once everything has been done, the steering committee will come and give account. And I think this is what is happening even in this conference. Precisely because of the tensions that exist, you have to actually give members, delegates, the space without having been put under undue pressure to deliberate on issues. On the issues that have been raised about myself, like I'm saying, I've been dealing with them. I've also taken legal action against 3 people, including the former chairperson of the NC in the West Rand, Mosungwenya, who has posted something on Facebook, and somebody, Chilivanza, and all those things. And one of your reporters who's wearing a check shirt outside, I told him, because part of what we have to deal with are issues that people raise as fact without verifying. And hence I'm here Jeremy and Karima, to come and share with you. I'm not in the Electoral Commission. Cindy Somfenyane and Sis Bridget and the other elders in the NC are in the Electoral Commission. Secondly, I do not actually have any access to the voting station until such time I go and vote. Thirdly, until today, nobody has actually said, here is the member of the independent electoral team that has actually been bought by Nomvula Mokonyane. Thirdly, on the issues about accreditation, including registration, remember there were insinuations that this conference is going to collapse around those issues. It's not the steering committee that deals with those issues, including the registration team, which was led, by the way, by the SG. We were doing things every step under the leadership. Yes, please do.
When you went to UJ, to the registration center, as a person from the steering committee who has nothing to do with that process, what exactly were you doing there?
Let me correct you. When I went to UJ, it is part of the work you do. It's not Nomvula alone.
No, but what exactly were you doing?
What you do, you put up a table, you wait for the provincial secretary and the regional secretary and the admin team to come in and say, here is the verification report of the SG signed that say this branch qualifies, and on the basis of that we have produced the tags, and here are the number of tags, and the secretary of the province, let me use Hope Papo, says, I've got these tags, but part of what has come out is that when we did pre-registration at the PGC, branch F qualified, but when it went for verification, branch F got a verification that disqualifies it. Then it becomes the responsibility of the regional secretary, the provincial secretary, to then come to us together, and we then sign off in the branch nomination.
This is as the steering committee?
Yes.
Now, what I wanted to ask...
let me finish, Karima. You asked me, I want to help you.
Yes.
So what you then do, you then sign off, you leave even the issuing of tags, you leave them to the team that is doing this work. And secondly, if there is a dispute between a branch and the provincial leadership, we all go to the SG, who then facilitates a dispute resolution mechanism, like he has done with the Northern Cape, he has done with KwaZulu-Natal, and so on and so forth. And the last thing that you also do as NEC members deployed in that particular space is to then get feedback on which branches, which provinces are coming and which branches have not been completed, so that then you inform the colleagues who are here at Nazareth to say, we are now done with so many regions, we are now done with so many provinces, and then until you get a verification report by the SG, there's very little you do.
What I want to ask, Nomvula, you're on the steering committee, this 68 votes, right, that people claim they were allowed to come in. All these processes, apparently, they were allowed. They got to the voters' roll and their names were not on the voters' roll. We're getting reports out of conference, unconfirmed reports, and I'd like you to tell us what the truth is, that Senzo Mchunu has only won either 15 or 17 of that 68 votes. Now, the question is, firstly, is that true? Secondly, if that is true, how do you get to a situation where 68 votes wasn't initially counted, they are now counted, you've counted a certain amount, it's going to a certain candidate, and the others are disqualified, because that's the unconfirmed information we get.
And who was at fault in that particular
how exactly
space?
did it happen?
How could that happen?
I think what I must really do is to help you from disabusing yourself. Your basis of the question is wrong, around 68. Wait until the new secretary of the ANC.
But you on the steering committee, you handle that matter. Why don't you answer
we have
that
a report.
question?
Remember, you can
share the report.
I don't want to do that, Karima. I'm not assigned to share that report. We must account to the delegates.
So can you tell people whether there are 68 votes that were not counted, that got to a point in your process, which you just explained so elaborately, that is meant to be foolproof, that cannot be rigged? You've denied allegations. You've rejected them. Tell us how the 68 came about, if at all. Tell us how, after that 68 came about, you counted 15, it went to a particular candidate. These are the unofficial reports that are coming out.
And is that figure of 68 correct?
Yeah, but disqualified. How did you get
that
there?
People are saying is so wrong.
So tell us what the truth is.
We account to the delegates of the conference.
This is precisely the point I was making.
We account to the conference, and once we have reported to those who are mandated by the ANC, we will share with you. And we want to assure...
With the greatest of respect, with the prevarication, it would seem that you're hiding something.
I'm not hiding anything. In fact, you will appreciate how these processes have been so well managed. What has been unfortunate is that information has been peddled and raised in a manner that makes you to believe this.
I agree completely. No, hold on. I agree.
Karima.
No, I agree that information has been peddled. I'm not sure whether in the course of you watching the different television stations, we've just watched the new president of the African National Congress on a video speak about this very matter. So there were 68 votes. And you know what he said in that video? He said we might not have gotten what we wanted, but we need to come out of this conference unified. This conference's integrity can't be undermined. So the point I'm making is that social media defeats the manner in which the ANC is still communicating. You think you're having private conversations. You're not. These things come out. It is then more prudent for the ANC, if it wants to be messaging accurately, to take charge of that process, which is why you have this opportunity. You released the statement,
Karima,
and you denied a whole
Minister
range of things.
And I'm inviting anyone to give evidence on these issues. Even on social media, I said, please, there's no police station that closes over the weekend.
So if we are wrong, why did the deputy president of the country and the president of the ANC speak in that video and talk to the issue of 68 votes? He started the video saying
he will explain to you once we report on the 68. That 68, it's not what you are saying.
What is it?
That 68, you will get it. Allow us to clear our issues inside in the ANC, and we will come and give. Actually, I'm at peace with it, because what has been good is that when these issues arise, every province, every provincial secretary sits there and they deal with the issue.
What in the provinces where there are no secretaries, like in KwaZulu-Natal and in Free State, their PECs are illegal?
They had to meet and appoint people who represent them.
So can you name the person who represented Free State and the person who represented KwaZulu-Natal?
Yes, the SG will report that.
But you are on the steering committee. They were dealing with you.
Yes, I'm not here to report on this matter. I'm saying we'll come and report to you, but I want to assure South Africans what is being peddled is a bunch of lies.
Minister, why are you afraid of naming these names?
No, I'm not afraid.
What are the consequences? Well, it
Listen,
sounds like
Jeremy,
you are.
You're not going to make me to undermine the rules of conference. I will not. I will not undermine the rules of conference. What I will do, I will again appreciate what you are saying, Karima. The ANC must adapt in terms of communication. The snail pace of responding is so costly, because information gets peddled to an extent where it's like there's something that is being hidden. Ordinarily, when this matter arose, we could have come instantly, but we had to actually go blow by blow. It's a tedious thing, but it is the best.
I have already in the past asked you, Minister, I've received this. Tell me, is it true or isn't it, right? Now, the point that you've just conceded, that you need to adapt your communications, is very, very important. And that's the context in which I made the point about the fact that if you release a statement like this, where you deny all of this, and we can't ask you specific questions, you don't actually clear up the matter.
Yes.
It remains.
No. With you, you are the last I'm talking to, and I came to various other studios and media houses.
This is very serious. Why didn't you call a press briefing?
I've gone throughout. I can call a press briefing, but what we must also not do is to force me to run a parallel communication outside of what is happening in the ANC. I've been insulted many times. I've been humiliated many times. And what I've always done is to separate myself from the ANC, so that then I don't crowd and overburden the ANC.
That is why this is in your personal name.
That's why it is in my personal name. But you will hear when the report is also being presented there. from the Electoral Commission and our former SG, who now is our national chairperson. You don't know how he chairs.
Minister Mokonyane, can I ask you a question?
That we're dealing with, but you will hear. They will also be talking about these things because no NEC or member of a steering committee accesses the electoral.
Are you conceding, after all the difficulties that you've had as a party with the dissemination of information at this conference, that you're now saying that you could have done it better, that you have tripped up on many instances, and you could be, I think to quote you, you could be a lot more speedy in what you do?
We've done
because
well.
That's what you've just told us.
I think
now.
we've done well on accounting on the program and the things that happen, but the manner in which communication has advanced, the NC must also adapt, because you're sitting there in the meeting, people are tweeting, people are sending information.
Minister, this has been on your radar screen for a long time. Why are you the last people to come to the party?
I'm saying, yes, part of our discussions is exactly around communication. I'm sure you have had Zizi.
You're supposed to have a new policy on social media.
That's exactly the thing.
Are you going to be able to rein in the Minister of Police? He seems to be in charge of his own Twitter account.
We will have the social media, and we will deal with everything that has to do with the social media, including those issues that may actually be at the detriment of the organization.
A final question from my part. The Deputy President in that video that we saw, the Deputy President of the country, the President of the African National Congress, he says an extensive report on the matter has been compiled.
We've done that.
Can you say categorically that in that report you do not stand accused of any wrongdoing in this process?
Not at all. 140%.
And that report is going to be made public?
It will. It will. The SGO will have that. You'll find it in the website. In fact, every provincial secretary has got it. We must thank them that they've not leaked it until now.
Earlier on in the process, did you request a recount?
Never. How can I do that? I have no authority on that.
Do you think a recount should have been called?
No, it depends on what the monitors and those that are party agents in the voting station decide.
And on the record, one of the other allegations leveled against you, did you try to include fake delegates into the process?
That's rubbish. The mayor of Mangaung, which is again the distortion and the challenges of people not understanding the NC. Let me help you. The mayor of Mangaung, Comrade Olim Lamlele, is a branch member in Mangaung. Myself, Enoch, Lungi Kabashe, Siyabonga Cwele, Noma India, we were deployed to deal with disputes in the Free State. We came to know that she is a branch delegate there. The branch came to confirm her being their branch delegate. Comrade Oli, somebody gets excited, sees a mayor who is a provincial chair of the ANC Women's League, takes a picture and say, this is a bogus delegate. She is a branch delegate. That's simple and straightforward. The second one that was used is the list of the ANC Women's League delegates, where they were saying, Jesse Nomvula, we are arrested by security with Mbalula and stuff. The ANC Women's League, like the ANC Youth League, are given a number of delegates for the conference. They do their own list to say this is...
But you have the final say over whether those lists are verified, isn't it, as the steering committee?
No, remember, verification is done by the SG.
Yes, but when does it come to you as at the point of registration?
It comes to us when it is signed to say this is a confirmed submission by the SG of the Women's League to the SG of the ANC.
So how is Ace Magashule a delegate here at this conference, given the fact that he's not a PEC member in terms of a court decision? Which branch is he a delegate for? Let
me educate you even on that one. Ace is an alternate delegate of his own branch, just as Sihle was the first preferred delegate in his branch. So when these issues happen, the branch decides that you were the alternate, go in then and represent us.
So what was wrong with the first delegate? Why did the first delegate not come?
The branch decided that it is in their own wish, because they made him a second, because they had assumed...
But there's very strict reasons for when you go to substitute. You must have a death in the family.
Yes,
you must be very
health, all those things.
So what was it then? Which one was it?
Listen, I want to bring you back. I said, all those issues of verification are approved by the SG of the ANC. Then they are brought to us. We don't validate any reason. But the only thing that we have is a branch nomination that says Nomvula is delegate number 1, Karima is the alternate delegate. That's what they do.
No, I get that.
So
but if the alternate delegate rocks up, you must have the reason why the alternate delegate
there's a letter from their branch, which then gets served to the then SG Gwede Mantashe.
But isn't it from that delegate? Isn't that delegate that was chosen meant to explain why that person is not there?
Listen,
so what was the
remember,
reason?
the branch of Ace Makashule and the delegate, they will be the ones who will write the letters, attach everything, will be phoned, and they will confirm, and that's what has happened. So it's things that are not even near my space. They rest with the Secretary General of the ANC and the team of auditors.
There are two questions I want to ask you. On the credentials, there was a long delay. People didn't know whether the credentials was going to be adopted. Jesse Duarte came out, says the credentials is delayed. What was the reason for the delay, and how did you eventually resolve it?
The good thing, and I think you remember also when you used to be an activist in the UDF days. You remember?
I do remember.
Yeah. One issue that becomes a very debatable matter in a meeting are credentials, because one branch will want to speak, one region will want to raise issues, somebody would want to understand why you said a particular province has got 20 branches that qualify, but you then find there are 36 delegates. You must come back and explain to say, remember, the baseline is 100, but if that province has got branches that have got over 250 additional members, then they get more and more. So you have to deal with those things. The second one was the issues about what other people were trying to raise. You find that Karima from branch F will want to raise something about branch Y. So it is all those things that had to be dealt with, including the cleaning of the credentials upon those decisions that the steering committee through the secretaries have actually made.
In terms of categories, we know there's things like people pretend who they are somebody that they're not, the bogus one. Then there's branches who said they were curating but they didn't actually curate, which means 50+1. In terms of the categories, as a member of the steering committee, what was the most profound irregularity in the credentials process?
There wasn't a profound irregularity.
So why did it take so long then?
It took long because members of the NC want to debate these.
So what was the most common thing that people did wrong?
The debate is not about the wrongness. The debate is about the validity, because like I'm saying,
but if you're invalid, you're trying to get into a conference that you didn't qualify for.
You can't
Why
walk
didn't people
in.
qualify?
You can't walk. No. You can't walk in and think you can qualify. Remember, you are processed in the registration at UJ. Then you arrive here, and the issue is when you arrive here, you debate because you know that you're coming from this particular place, and now you are a non-voting, because you know what? Verification by the SG, the SG's office, was done after, let me use Gauteng. There was a PGC at St. George's. After the PGC, comrades who are coming to Nasrec register. And post that registration, there's verification. And then when they arrive at UJ, they, out of the verification report of the SG, 2 branches from Tshwane or 1 branch from eThekwini, then you then put them as non-voting. Because you find that some of the branches, when the the verification is done, you find that the signatures don't actually show similarity between my signature in my membership and the signature in the register. The others, you may find that they've not put attachments, and you have to explain all those things. Because
Minister, I'm going to interrupt you if I can, because we're getting bogged down into a lot of technicality, and I'm sure that Karima Brown is very grateful for your assistance. I want to go back to the statement that you issued, the one that you referred to on the 18th. Part of it said that the above allegations, and we've gone through the allegations already, are false and an attempt to create divisions in the ANC by those opposed to the unity. Who made these allegations, do you think? Who was responsible for that?
Some of them have picked them up in the social network. One of them, like I've said, is a member of the NC.
And you said you were taking charges.
Yes.
How many were there?
No. For now, I'm targeting 3. But Others have been retweeting and all those things. I've also written to Business Day because Business Life has also put a tweet.
One other
and
allegation.
your guy who was talking here, the short guy with the check shirt.
Oh, there are lots of short guys.
Yeah, I'll show you when we go out.
Minister, what I wanted to ask is, given the fact that the ANC is so divided, and it's an acknowledged thing, are you satisfied that when you guys were deliberating on these matters, right, you all had your preferences, you all had your vested interests, as is your right. Do you think that you managed the fact that you were attached to factions but still had to verify processes which had to be seen to be fair, where you put your preference aside so that you can see that the ANC's constitution is actually upheld? Do you think you succeeded in convincing the majority of your delegates that you could take the fact that you were perhaps in a different faction and put it one side and adjudicate fairly over a process?
I'm just going to give you 2 examples. We went to deal with the disputes in Thabo Mofutsanyan. Myself and Comrade Enoch, we deployed there, we're working, and some comrades come wearing CR17 t-shirts and they barge into the venue and they want to call Comrade Enoch to say, no, we want to talk to you. And Comrade Enoch says, who are you? No, we are CR17. And Comrade Enoch said, go jump. I'm not CR17 here. I am Enoch, and NEC member were dealing with the disputes. And immediately there were tweets, SMSs, WhatsApp to Comrade Enoch, including by comrades outside of the Free State accusing him. But we all stuck to our issues, and we, in fact, everybody, I'm not actually blowing my own trumpet. The most spoken about team was myself and Enoch Gotongwan about how we have handled our own issues.
So secondly, why the statement then?
Listen, I'm talking about the management of disputes. The second one is that people would want to assume that a Nomvula will not work with a Hope Pap, the provincial secretary of Gauteng. And one of the things we were able to do with Hope was to be very strict on issues and resolve matters organizationally. In the steering committee, you've got all provinces and you understand the preferences of different provinces. But what has been quite good is that all of us committed ourselves that we will never compromise the organizational processes. And the SG then, now the chair, was presiding over that, of course supported by Comrade Jesse, the DSG. And what has been good is that even in the heat of these contestations, when there is a matter that affects the organization, we all dealt with it, including these matters, by the way, that were also raised in the steering committee, and those issues are going to be also presented here to say these insinuations must come to an end. Comrade Hope Papo actually on Facebook reacted to some of the members, like the former chairperson of the ANC in the West Rand, to say, you stop this rubbish you are saying, because we work and we know what has been done.
Why is your comrades in the ANC so distrustful of you?
Not all of them. It's those that have got issues with me.
But why? How does that arise? You're members of the same organization.
That forced you to issue a statement like this?
It's all because it was feeding on a negative narrative around the organization and myself. And one of the things that you can't take away from me is the passion to do organizational work for the ANC. And I had a responsibility with the team that I was working on. And hence I had to deal with individuals now, because it's also not fair. There's a person in Nomvula besides being a member of the ANC. Secondly, there are people who consistently would have wanted to see this conference collapse, and the conference collapses from registration. And if you create...
Was it ever at that point?
Never. Interestingly, never. Even when it was a bit drizzling outside, and there was a time where we had huge crowds of comrades who were in the queues, who went through those screens of the police into the UJ arena. We directed them to go upstairs, and we just sat there with Comrade Jesse, Comrade Mildred Lisia, Nkabisi Skwacha, and Tulas Ngesi came to join us. And we worked on these issues, and everything was resolved, including, by the way, being able to get the provincial secretaries themselves to respond properly and relate properly with those that have found themselves just traveling without any proof of documentation to I didn't say South Africa, to Gauteng, but they were all able to assist. And I think what we must really commend is the capacity of our provincial secretaries to rise above, including the team of simple, ordinary volunteers of the ANC who were actually in the cold face of doing this work.
Minister, remind us again why you declined nomination.
I declined the nomination because I didn't want to contest for the TG.
Was it not a face-saving exercise? What did you get? 289 nominations?
And who had the highest?
You could have been embarrassed.
No. You see, that's what you don't understand. It's 281 branches.
Yes.
Branches, listen to me. 281 branches. One of those branches has got 18 delegates here. So, I actually had the highest even compared to Comrade Mayiti.
You had the super branches. Now, so what I want to ask...
I want to help Jeremy. You don't get...
Thank you, Minister.
You don't say 281, it means it's 281
No, I understand that, it's branches.
So I'm helping you. No, I know that you want to really create hype. It was not that. As I'm saying, those branches, the biggest delegation was 18, and the other branches had 10, 12 delegates. If I wanted, I would have done it. But again, to have a three-man race would just not be good.
Now, we of course know that the larger the branch is, the more delegates they have, but it's also tougher to curate because, of course, you must bring very large numbers of people together. And that's why I wanted you to explain to us what was the issue with credentials, because that would presumably one of the tough things. But of course, you didn't answer that question. But I have another question for you. You've been in the ANC for a very long time. This is a very big organization. Why are you still manual counting? Why are you afraid of technology? Why are you so filled with conspiracy when you are in a modern age where we could have had this conference long over and done with?
It's in the nature of the organization itself. And
is it good? Is it healthy for you?
Look, I think we must modernize the ANC. One of the things I've said in the commissions I was facilitating on strategy and tactics and organizational renewal was, we can't forever be still battling on just a simple membership, yet you can go to ACAMENS anywhere and you are linked to ACAMENS across the country.
But Abilik doesn't want to give the grant payment system to anyone who doesn't have biometrics, but you want to count manually.
What is also of importance is that some of the things in the ANC are over-democratized, because it is then the decision of the plenary to say we want a manual count, we want a whatever. You rather not bring things right at the tail end. I think we must begin to modernize the ANC, starting from recruitment, starting from joining the ANC. We must be smart, and I acknowledge that. The ANC has to be smart because it will also kill gatekeeping. It would also make sure that we have less of these papers that are cluttered around.
What's wrong with electronic counting?
What is wrong with electronic counting is that it can also be manipulated and be hacked. We know what happened in Polokwane where there was a load.
Remember vote electronically in the country. Why can't the ANC vote the way voters vote in the country?
No, I'm saying there was something we saw which was unfortunate in Polokwane. And I think it has created uncertainty. And one of the things which I can't influence the entire ANC about, is that we need to be smart, we need to invest on technology, we need to make sure that our own systems are actually accepted by our own people. And that's what is missing.
We need to come into the 21st century.
Minister, can I ask you, how are you going to invest in technology if you're technically insolvent?
We have to get out of that space.
How are you going to do that, given that you wanted the TG's job in the first place?
If I wanted that TG space, I could have contested. I was nominated.
Were you going to win?
Never remember?
Okay,
let me help you. I never wanted to be. I was nominated.
Okay.
Then I was given an opportunity to respond at plenary.
I understand.
And I said,
I'm asking you how you're going to afford the technology.
Let's hear on the report of the organizational renewal. Figile and Nati were reporting on it.
But how are you going to fix the party's finances?
They will also, the finance committee, I think you heard what Zizi said. It's not, they are not actually reporting on it.
Why don't you want to talk about your money?
I'm not the treasurer.
No, I'm talking about your organization.
Yes, I'm not the TG. It's a decision of the NEC of the ANC.
You're a member of the ANC?
It is the decision of those 4,500 and something.
But you must be worried about it.
What is your view? Should the books be opened?
The books should be opened, and we agree. And one of the things that must happen is that we must encourage party funding, so that then there is no one who cannot stand public scrutiny on where they get their funds from.
Does the ANC support the notion that we must know who funds all political parties? Will you tell us who funds you?
Once it is acceptable across the country, it should be.
Why? Why can't you set the example by saying we prepare?
You're the largest party.
We're the largest party, and we're the less funded compared to the DA.
Yeah, but that's not the question.
No, I'm telling you.
Why don't you provide leadership on the matter of transparency?
We will provide leadership. That's why we're championing the issue of party funding in Parliament.
But you want more taxpayers' money, but you don't want to commit to being transparent.
It's the party
It's not
funding.
the chicken and egg
Listen,
thing. It's principle.
The party funding has got nothing to do with solely taxpayers' money. It also is about how political parties can go out and source private funding, Karima.
No, I hear you, but tell us which businesses funds the African National Congress. What's wrong with that?
There's a new treasurer, Comrade Paul. I'm sure he can come and tell you.
Okay, so you're gonna throw a hospital pass on that one to Paul Mashatile. Minister, I want to ask you finally, because we've had a long time with you, and thank you for coming in.
Yes, we do appreciate
we appreciate it, and we always enjoy your
and
company.
I hope I've taught you one or
you
two
have
things
taught
about
us
the
both
NCA.
a lot of lessons, and thank you.
Yeah.
We've been to your political school, and we appreciate it.
That doesn't exist, by the way.
Yeah.
But here it is, eh?
There's another question. Why isn't the political school online? But that's a different issue entirely.
It is. It is online. Political school now is online. It is online now. I'm on category 4 in the political
I'm
school.
happy to hear that, and I stand corrected. At the end of this, two things. Is it going to finish today?
It has to.
I'm not. Is it going to finish
It
today?
has to.
All right. I'm going to take that as a yes. Will you emerge more unified at the end of this, so we can all go to Christmas and people can say their party is more unified?
You know, I measure
That rand that you said we can pick up from the floor, is it going to stabilize?
It is. It should, and it must, as long as it is not politicized.
How do you
Even
mean?
that, I mean it for another day, but I mean as long as those issues are not over-politicized.
So you think you've picked up the rant
Because
here.
one of the challenges is, it can be correct that Comrade Pravin Gordhan can say, if you don't vote for
All right.
Cyril Ramaphosa, then you're going to be
No,
downgraded.
but Cyril Ramaphosa has been voted for, so has the rand been picked
Let's
up?
go. Let's hear Pravin what he says.
Okay.
It's up to Pravin.
Minister
to say that.
Mokonyane, from both of us, happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Thank you very
so
Thank
much.
you very much, and
And a good
I
conference.
hope you guys will
Yes,
now
you taught us a lot.
appreciate.
Okay.
The ANC's conference is a political school. It's not a festival of just throwing information, but I do acknowledge the pace of disseminating information and managing information must improve.
Which is why we asked you here in the first place.
I
Mokonyane,
brought myself
thank you
here.
very
You
much
didn't
indeed.
invite me.
Appreciate it. That's it. It's over now, okay? We're going to throw this back to Hyde Park, and our coverage from Nasrec continues here on ENCA. That has been a very interesting 45 minutes.